Welcome to another episode of my series, Mystic Minds with K Mystic, where I like to talk about what I like to call the mystic veil, the bridge between the seen and unseen worlds. The pipeline to being beyond scared straight in the occult. It usually starts with a motivation of having a basic interest in spirituality. They either are in it for the aesthetic, they're searching for a community, they're searching for power. I've actually heard stories from people around the world. And sometimes when people get into spirituality or metaphysics, sometimes it's because something worked for them, whether it was something negative or positive. There's stories of people doing a love spell on someone and it worked. That person fell in love with them or either became obsessed with them, went crazy over them. And then they got into spirituality because of that or metaphysics. There might be people that did a hex on someone and then it worked. So they become a witch after this. So a lot of different motivations on why people get into spirituality, and based on the reasoning and what they get into it for, it actually matters because this may lead you to being beyond scared straight in the occult. They burn sage, they have altars, they collect gemstones and crystals, they might be into readings or astrology. Then they have a vision. They either have sleep paralysis, they see something through their mind's eye in a meditation, they might have a dream of like they might have a vision of hell, or they see a so-called demon. And this leads to the recurring trope. A lot of the people that are ex-witches, ex-warlocks, and they come out and speak against the occult, they have this emphasis on deep immersion. They were either a high-ranking warlock, a high-ranking wizard. They talk about their experience and their years of their studies or practice. They claim to have communicated with the devil or demons in person or in the spirit realm through dreams, visions, astral projections, etc., etc. Then something goes wrong. Then the pivot happens. They talk about their deliverance and how their demonic encounter exposes spirituality and it exposes the occult. And they found out that they have been basically bamboozled and that it was all evil and they were led astray. They end up creating platforms basically based off this, and they create content warning people about the occult and spirituality. Now, I'm not here to take away from anyone's experiences or downplay what anyone went through. I'm the last person to do that. I understand how serious it can get sometimes, but I'm just here to give my interpretation and talk about a missing context in a lot of these stories, in my opinion. The missing part of every story is the complexity of the spirit realm and the other side. In almost a lot, and I want to say all of them, but in a lot of the testimonies that I see is the descriptions of various types of entities and beings, the diversity of their appearance, personalities, realms, or dimensions. Now, the reason why I brought this up because when you read books about the astral plane, when you read books about the spirit realm, when you either have your own personal spiritual experiences, metaphysical experiences, they don't suit the same category that everyone else that says a story is going to suit. Everyone's going to have their own different interpretation, their own experience, or there's going to be a wide variety of different descriptions, stories, etc., etc. So they're not going to all suit one archetype that we see in a lot of these occult testimonies. Their setting is almost always in a lower astral hellish realm, their living room, where this shadow encounter happened. The reason why I put descriptions of the astral plane here is because we never hear about these stories. We never hear about someone going into the astral world and visiting another dimension, visiting another realm, visiting a being, right? And I'll talk about it in the next slide is we never talk about the experiences before they found out about their deception. We only hear about the end part, the negative encounter. Their description of the spirit realm is always shadowy, it's always dark, it's always in their living room, their bedroom, where they met this shadow being. Instead of a unique variations and appearance of what dark entities can look like, what is always almost described is a tall shadow creature. Now, no one's denying that there's probably negative beings out there that look like a shadow. But why is everyone encountering the same shadow archetype? In my opinion, if everyone's meeting a negative being, they should all look different. Even people in real life, not all negative people look the same. Everyone has their own personalities, everyone has their own appearances. We never hear a gray alien, a werewolf, a vampire. We never heard there was a green demon, a red demon, a yellow demon. There was a reptilian. We always hear it was a tall shadow being that I saw in sleep paralysis, and or that they saw in their bedroom or through their mind's eye or in meditation or through astral projection. Again, I'm not here to take away from anyone's experience, but it almost seems like their brain is filtering one archetype of what they're expecting to be bad or what they were told what you're going to encounter if something goes wrong. The missing part of every story, the positive experiences before the realizations of deceptions. There's no descriptions of lessons, positive experiences, or so-called spirit guides and ancestors. Their remote viewing and psychic vision in the astral travels may have their remote viewing, psychic vision, or astral travels seem to have only worked for fear-inducing experiences. Now, this is one that I always question, right? I wonder if people ask themselves, if my psychic abilities only work on negative things, then what type of psychic abilities do I have? You know, you don't hear about Uncle Johnny walking down the street and they saw a celestial angel protecting them, or their grandma visited and she had a bubble of protection around her. The only thing that you ever hear about is, I saw this shadow, or there was this demon, or there was these negative people, this negative energy. But you never hear about someone saying that, you know, there was this person that I met and this person was an angelic person, right? In a lot of these ex-witch, ex-warlock stories, you only hear about them meeting meeting the worst type of entities in existence, right? So that's why I talked about there's no descriptions, lessons, or positive experiences before the realized deception. This raises questions whether their deep practice ever truly went below the surface, or if their own personal interpretation, consciousness state, and narrative bias was intertwined in their occult testimonies. Conclusion: I do believe that they began practicing spells and rituals, they studied the occult, they attempted to become a witch or warlock. But my opinion, right, you know, obviously, I'm not the end all be all. Most accounts of demons are confined into what would induce fear, a shadow creature. That's why I talked about the different variations of negative entities that could exist, but there's almost one description: a demon that was a shadow. They perceive the shadow entity either in the lower astral version of their home or through their mind's eye. This is true. I'm not saying that that didn't happen. I'm not here to take away from anyone's experience. But because of this limited, distorted experience, they concluded that spirituality and the occult is demonic, and they were deceived by New Age practices. And that's why I titled this Beyond Scared Straight Occult Edition, because in the show, they're taken to prison and these big, scary, bad people, right? They basically scare them and say, this, you shouldn't be here, you know, get out of this place. And that's basically what I imagine when this shadow encounter happens. Like, it's like the Beyond Scared Straight in the occult. The shadow tells them, like, get out of here, you're not supposed to be here. And they end up coming in saying that spirituality is bad. Now, you know, I'm not here to take away from anyone's experiences. I'm just saying that there's missing context and complexity in a lot of these stories. And that concludes another episode of Mystic Minds with K Mystic.